By the way, this was written by the director of the center you sat on the board of, that you advised. The demand to center Israel's right to self-defense, that's in scare quotes, self-defense, erases the colonial context and delegitimizes the Palestinian right to resistance. We are in awe of the Palestinian struggle to resist violent occupation, removal, erasure, and the expansion of Israeli settler colonialism. Do you agree with that, yes or no?
Senator, I don't claim to be an expert on the Middle East.
And I've asked you now 4 different times, 4 different ways. I'm asking you whether this individual who said that Israel was a violent settler colonial state, I'm just trying to get you to say, do you agree with that or not? You're not answering me. Why is that? Why can't you just say, no, I don't agree with this? Let's try again.
Yeah.
Do you agree with this statement, yes or no? What's the policy about calling Israel a violent settler colonialist state? Why is that a policy question?
Senator, that is not a statement that I had any involvement with.
Okay, good. So would you condemn it then? You say this does not represent your views.
Senator, I didn't know anything about
Why
it.
didn't you? Didn't you have a moral obligation to know about a center that you sat on the board of for years, whose director was calling Jewish people colonialist, violent settlers?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to America First, where we stand for truth, freedom, and the values that make our nation great. Today, we're diving into an absolutely infuriating Senate hearing featuring Senator Josh Hawley and Judicial nominee Adeel Mangi. Folks, if you haven't seen this clip yet, buckle up, because this is a perfect example of what's wrong with the so-called elites in our institutions today. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a dose of common sense in your daily feed. Now, let's get into it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to the nominees. Thanks for being here. Mr. Mangi, if I could just start with you, I just want to make sure I understood your answers to my colleagues, including Senator Cruz. Let me just read you something. I just want to know if you agree with this or not. This should be simple. Here's a statement. The demand to center Israel's right to self-defense, that's in scare quotes, self-defense, erases the colonial context and delegitimizes the Palestinian right to resistance. We are in awe of the Palestinian struggle to resist violent occupation, removal, erasure, and the expansion of Israeli settler colonialism. Do you agree with that, yes or no? I realize you didn't write it, and you may not know who the author is, may never have heard of these people before. I just want to know, does this represent your view, yes or no?
Senator, any attempt to justify what happened on October 7th, I have absolutely no...
Well, that's not the context here. This is talking about any discussion of Israel's right to self-defense erases the colonial context. It's calling Israel a colonial state. So could we just answer my question? Do you agree with this, yes or no?
Senator, I don't claim to be an expert on the Middle East. I don't have the historic or regional expertise.
Sounds like a maybe. That's a maybe? Maybe you agree? Can we get a yes or a no?
Each say this is a policy question or a question for foreign experts.
Wait, that's what I don't understand. By the way, this was written by the director of the center you sat on the board of, that you advised. This is the director, not some random professor, the director, who published it in an open letter. So when you say it's a policy, what's the policy about calling Israel a violent settler colonialist state? Why is that a policy question?
Senator, that is not a statement that I had any involvement with.
Okay, good. So would you condemn it then? You say this does not represent your views.
Senator, I have no basis as a judicial nominee to cast views on the Middle East or what does or does not happen.
This is what you're not answering my question. I'm asking you whether this individual who said that Israel was a violent settler colonial state, I'm just trying to get you to say, do you agree with that or not? And I've asked you now 4 different times, 4 different ways. You're not answering me. Why is that? Why can't you just say, no, I don't agree with this? Let's try again.
Yeah.
Do you agree with this statement, yes or no?
Senator, in order to agree or disagree with any statement, I need to have a sufficient factual background to assess it.
So in other words, you can't say whether or not Israel is a violent colonial state. You think that's a difficult question?
Oh, God. That is not an issue with which I have any expertise.
Is the Holocaust also a difficult question? Does that need context?
No.
Is that a policy question?
I am quite happy to address the Holocaust, Senator.
Why aren't you happy to address this then? Why is it that an individual on the center that you directed who calls Israel a violent colonialist state, those are racist comments. Why can't you condemn that? I don't understand it. You won't answer my questions. You won't answer Senator Cruz's questions. You wouldn't answer Senator Kennedy's questions. I don't understand why this is complicated.
Senator, I'm Pakistani. I didn't grow up in the Middle East.
I didn't either. I didn't either, but that doesn't mean that I can't say that somebody who says that a Jewish state is a violent colonialist enterprise is wrong. This isn't a policy question. It's a moral question. This is a moral issue.
Senator, I am not in a position to make any policy pronouncements about actions in the Middle East.
Does Israel have a right to exist?
Yes.
Should American Jews be safe in their homes and on their campuses?
Senator, there is
Just
no
yes
one.
or no, please. Spare me the lectures. Yes or no? Did you
course.
advise against this letter? You sat on the advisory board. Did you advise against it?
I never even heard of that letter.
How is that possible? What did you do on this board for all these years? This was years before you left it.
It's an advisory board that met once a year to talk about academic research.
Do you not think it's relevant to the setting in the academy that Jewish students might feel unsafe when they have a tenured professor who's the director of a center saying that Israel is a violent colonialist state? Do you think that may not have an effect on the educational environment?
Senator, I abhor.
But you didn't care to look into it?
May I respond?
But you've responded. I've heard your answers, and they're all move over here, look over here. You're not answering any of my questions. And I can't figure out why. I can't figure out why you won't just say that this was wrong. So you didn't advise against it. You didn't condemn it. You didn't look into the center's activities. Do you regret that? Do you regret not at the time taking a moral stand against these frankly racist condemnations of Jewish Americans, Jewish people in the state of Israel? Do you think it was wrong for you to be silent?
Senator, I didn't know anything about
Why
it.
didn't you? Didn't you have a moral obligation to know about a center that you sat on the board of for years, whose director was calling Jewish people colonialist, violent settlers? Do you not have a moral obligation to know and say something?
That is not the function of an academic advisory board, but I abhor
But it
any
is the function of
anti-Semitism.
a responsible jurist and a responsible citizen. And I would just suggest to you that you failed it. And your inability to just say, this was wrong, this shouldn't have been said, this kind of language and rhetoric is what has led directly to Jewish American students now being called out on campuses, in classrooms, told to stand up and go and stand in a corner because they need to feel what it's like to be colonized. I'm sure you've seen the reports of this happening across the country. This is happening now.
Senator, your time's expired. Mr. Mangi, would you like to complete an answer?
Thank you, Chair Durbin. Any acts of anti-Semitism or any bigotry, including anti-Muslim bigotry, on college campuses is abhorrent. My children will be going to university soon. I want them to feel safe, and I want the children of my Jewish friends and colleagues to feel safe too.
Well, you think you'll take a greater interest when your children are on campus, maybe, than you did for the last 3 years?
Senator, your time has expired.
All right, let me stop it right there. Senator Hawley is asking a very straightforward question. He's quoting a statement that calls Israel a violent settler colonial state and delegitimize its right to self-defense. This isn't rocket science, folks. It's not some complicated policy question. It's a simple matter of right and wrong. All Hawley wants to know is if Adeel Mangi agrees with this disgusting statement or not. And what does Mangi do? He dodges. He dances around the question. He refuses to give a straight answer. Now, why is that? Let's keep watching. Are you kidding me? I don't claim to be an expert on the Middle East. Give me a break. You don't need to be an expert on Middle Eastern history to condemn a statement that smears Israel, a strong ally of the United States, and essentially justifies violence against it. This isn't about expertise, folks. This is about moral clarity. It's about having the backbone to stand up and say, no, I don't agree with this anti-Israel, anti-Semitic garbage. But instead, what does Mangi do? He hides behind excuses. He refuses to take a stand. Now here's where it gets even worse. Senator Hawley points out that this statement wasn't written by some random activist on Twitter. It was written by the director of the academic center where Mangi sat on the advisory board for years. Let me repeat that, years. And yet, when Hawley asks if Mangi ever spoke out against this rhetoric, Mangi says he didn't even know about it. Folks, how do you sit on the board of a center and not know what's being published under its name? Either Mangi is lying or he was completely derelict in his responsibilities. Neither option is acceptable for someone who wants to be a federal judge. Senator Hawley absolutely nails it here. This kind of rhetoric, the kind that paints Israel as some sort of evil, colonial oppressor, isn't just wrong. It's dangerous. It fuels antisemitism. It emboldens extremists. And we're already seeing the consequences of this on college campuses across America, where Jewish students are being harassed and targeted simply for being Jewish. This isn't just a policy issue. It's a moral issue. And yet, Mangi refuses to take stand. He refuses to condemn this hateful language. Why? Because the left has created an environment where standing up for Israel, or even just standing up for basic decency, is seen as politically incorrect. It's shameful. Of course. Here's Senator Durbin swooping in to defend Mangi. He reads a letter from the National Council of Jewish Women praising Mangi and calling the accusations against him unfair. But let me ask you this, what does this letter actually prove? Nothing. It's just more Washington theater. The real issue here isn't whether Mangi has a few supporters willing to write a nice letter. The issue is his complete lack of courage and integrity during this hearing. If he can't even condemn an openly anti-Israel statement in front of the Senate, how can we trust him to uphold the rule of law on the federal bench? Folks, this hearing was almost unwatchable, not because of Senator Hawley, he did a fantastic job, but because of Adeel Mangi's utter refusal to answer basic questions. This is the kind of weak, spineless leadership that's infecting our institutions. These are the people the left wants to put in positions of power. People who won't stand up for our allies. People who won't take a stand against hate. People who would rather dodge and deflect than speak the truth. And let me tell you something. This isn't just about this one hearing. This is about the bigger picture. It's about the left's war on Israel. It's about their willingness to turn a blind eye to antisemitism when it suits their narrative. And it's about the need for strong, principled leaders like Senator Josh Hawley who are willing to call this out for what it is. If we want to preserve the values that make America great, if we want to stand with our allies, protect free speech, and fight bigotry in all its forms, we cannot let people like Adeel Mangi take positions of power. So here's what I need you to do. Share this video. Talk to your friends and family about what's happening in our government. And make sure you're paying attention when these nominations come up for a vote. Our voices matter. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Together, we can put America first. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.